All right, we're live. Welcome to the 667 experience. My name is Shane Carling, and I'm here with my co host, Jordan Rouse. And what we're going to talk about is six packs, six figures, and Sabbath. We like to get into it. Jordan Rouse and I have been friends for a really long time, and we're two buddies that like to basically talk about any subject and jump down the rabbit hole as far as we can go. And today, what we're going to be talking about is
Yeah. We're going to talk about teamwork. We're going to talk about collaboration, and we're going to talk about positive community environments and what the differences are. So, a lot of the thing is lots of us work in different spheres nowadays, and we're all trying to succeed. And we're all trying to empower others. And if you're not, well, then you're probably not a good person. This isn't the right podcast for you. But the idea is we want to take care of others. To do that, we have to make them effective at working interpersonally. And the problem is there's a lot of noise in the world right now, meaning people are acting in a sphere of fear and uncertainty and these sort of things. So how do you take an environment like that and make one where people feel psychological safety, they feel their ability to express themselves, they feel the ability to collaborate, they can trust that the deliverables that they need will come towards them from other people, and they're not acting in fear, they're acting in faith. So a lot of what we're going to go down tonight is like our experiences in different worlds. Shane's from very much the B2C marketing direct one, but also building huge communities to collaborate on these projects and drive marketing and drive sales and do the things that he does. And me from a B2B perspective, like building the traditional team where your company has employees, but we're going to talk a little bit about structures and how people look at it, because the organization I adhere to myself is a flat structure, and we're going to talk about what that means. So there's not really like bosses and titles and all those fun things. We just kind of get work done together, and we're going to explore these structures and how you can set yourself up in these communities to do a good job. So whether you're positioning yourself as a leader is someone who does the most service to others. So we're going to talk about what servant leadership would be within communities, what that means as a team, where you can get more resources and what to talk about. And then we're going to talk about how we screwed that up a lot in our life and like how we failed. So you guys fail less, and you can take those examples as why those failures came about and how to maybe check yourself at the door if you're feeling like you're in a leadership position, but some of these feelings are cropping up in you, right? And then we're going to talk about gaining momentum in teams. Like, what does it mean? How do you get it in a traditional B2B, or let's say actual traditional employee management sort of dynamic, and then in the collaboration teams where you have a bunch of freelancers working together for affiliate marketing or on different projects around the world where you're collaborating to produce a deliverable. So I know that's a lot. It's like a lot of mouthful, but we got a lot of energy to cover it. We have a lot of mistakes we're going to share with you. And if you want to see like a lot of pain, that's going to reverberate through us because we screwed up a lot. And you know what? You learn from those lessons. You apologize to those that you hurt along the way, and then you try to make it better for them in the future. And I think that's part of growing up, hey?
Oh, yeah.
And we're still growing up, and we're in our 30s. And so, yeah, I think that's you never really grow up all the way. I think that's just true. So Shane, let me ask you the first question. What was your first team experience in life? Like, do you remember, was it sports? Was it like, some sort of school activity? Do you remember what the first kind of team environment, that first one, maybe not that you did,
Well,
but the
like
first one that
school,
kind of
like
stands
elementary
out?
school stuff, right? Like when you're in a class, you're on like the volleyball team or the badminton team, or you're on the dodgeball team, like that kind of stuff. There was some martial arts stuff. I mean, we used to play teams as in the Boys and Girls Club, like tag, hide and seek, kick the can. So like childhood teams create, like, remember that?
You played kick the
You
can?
didn't?
What is this, the 1800s?
Man, what are you talking about? This 1800s. Kick the can was like the funnest game ever.
What third world country did you grow up in?
Dude,
I thought you're from Canada.
come on, it was in Canada.
That's hilarious,
I
man.
feel bad for you that you never played kick the can.
No, my grandparents told me about it.
You know how to play kick the can? You kick the can over the house.
That's
And then you have
hilarious.
to, I don't know. Yeah, anyways, long story short. So are we talking about that, or do you want something a little bit more, you know?
No, I think that's good. I think that team environments, like, they kind of shape us, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember where teams really stood out to me. Like, when I was in grade 3, I was the fat kid in class. I weighed 102 pounds in grade 3. And I remember I could hardly hustle my butt around the field. And I always got chose last for sports, anything to do. But then on that summer in between grade 3 and grade 4, there's a lot of things that happened in my life, and I just basically didn't eat for 2 months because I got depressed as a kid, and I lost like 47 pounds, like crazy amount of weight. And I dropped down to what I almost should be. And I came back. And because I had carried all that weight for so long, I was really strong. And I became like the best athlete. So then I got picked first. And so teams like definitely shaped me. It's something that I was when I was younger, I wanna be that guy in the team because I never could be. And then I got somehow saved during the summer and lost all that weight. And I became that person on a team. And there's some pivotal experiences, but I believe that, learning to work as a team kind of propels you in life because it's other people who are going to help shape your fortune. You can never go to the top alone, right? It takes a team of great people, just like a family unit, like there's no good family units without a husband and a wife and then the kids and the aunts and uncles and grandparents and brothers and sisters and, all these things together. And it's the same thing as a team, right? And so I just want to hear about your first experience where you remember as a team that kind of something happened
Hockey.
that kind of changed you.
I remember hockey. So
All right.
hockey as a kid when I was playing hockey in a team. So this was the first time, like I literally couldn't get it right. When I was playing hockey, I was hockey inept. I was the epitome of bad hockey player. I mean, I was right wing or something like that. I really a long time ago. But if you gave me the puck, I was likely to pass it to the other team somehow, or just I was very just not very capable. And so my first experience in a team like that, where it was like, being coached and there's pressure, was not so fun because the coach would always bench me during the games. And I think what had led to that was probably a lack of the right kind of encouragement. A kid, you're just trying to fit in, you're trying to get along, you're trying to figure it all out. And so, if you got a coach saying, you can't figure it out, nah, and all, no one really speaking greatness into you, and they're just like discouraging you or condescending or whatever, then, it just becomes this frightful experience. So I actually hated it, to be completely honest with you. Was not a great experience for me. I did like skating sometimes.
Okay, well, I've had some team experiences which are good and bad and different, and coaches which which really shaped me. I remember one time I kept dropping my stick for a couple games, and this was in like Pee Wee Rep or something like that. And my buddy Brandon's dad was our coach, and I come back to the bench. He grabs my stick, puts it in my hand, grabs tape, and tapes my entire roll of tape around my hand so I wouldn't let go of my stick. And he's made me play like the next two games with my hand taped to my stick just to hold on to my stick. So that said, don't let go of your stick during a game. It's like, that was a good lesson for me. But anyways, like there's these experiences that shape us. And I remember one of the most important ones was, I didn't realize how I was developing as a leader in team sports. And usually I think one of the things that kind of held me back and propelled me at the same time was my dad was the coach of like the rep team, right? Soccer team. And he was a really good coach, and we went really far. We went really, really far for being a small town Williams Lake team. We were playing like Seattle and Montreal and like Los Angeles. We were playing big teams. And the thing is we vote for captain, right? And I didn't win captain, but they voted for me. I came second in votes, and I won assistant captain, even though I was a coach's kid. I thought that was pretty crazy because it's like democratic vote between everybody, right? And the guy who won captain was like one of my best friends in the world, Jason Sandy, who was awesome. So it was like this one of those experiences where saying, hey, man, well, I might have some ability as a leader or to bring forward a team. And I was just like, I think I was 14 at the time. And that was like a big deal to me. It said like, oh, I'm not. Because I thought I was a little bit weird, and I still think I was a little bit weird, but it just showed me that kids related to me, like the other kids were relating to me. So that experience to be in leadership on a team was a big deal, right? Especially those were all the best kids in our town. It was a small town. We all played every rep sport together. So, that was a shaping thing. And I think when we look back on teams, and I encourage everyone to be part of a team. I still play like soccer with a team. Even as an adult guy, I go out and play on those teams. I think it's a good experience for people to learn how to interact with others. And you're always in different positions. Sometimes you're the leader, sometimes you're the follower, and sometimes you're kind of in the middle. You got a little bit of both roles. And I think it's important for all of us to figure out how to play different roles on a team, because you're never just going to be the leader. You're never just going to be a follower. Sometimes you're going to be, depending on the group, you're going to fit in a different spot. So I thought it was an important lesson that I learned, like to play a lot of different roles, and that you can elevate yourself to leadership, but it takes time and consistency and hard work, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I learned from teams. We had different teams. Everything I did was team experience, right? I don't think I ever did a solo sport like golf or anything.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
teams are something that I think it's a huge part of having an active social life, and it really helps shape the teams and experiences we have in teams really shape pardon me, the experience we have as children when we're in teams and we're growing up. Those really shape our perspective on social interactions, going into the future, right? If we have good team experience, then maybe we're better in teams. If we have experiences where those team experiences aren't so great when we're kids, then maybe it's going to make you want to be more independent and isolated or introverted as you get older, because usually those that same pattern of not having a good experience in a team can create a story or a narrative inside of our mind. And as we enter team experiences or environments in the future, one of the things I've learned, and this is really important, is that your past stories, if you haven't really dealt with them, if you haven't really gotten through them, tend to want to revalidate themselves. And they're always looking for the, ha, see, I told you, ha, aha, see, that's why. They're always looking for validation. And so we actually create subconsciously either good experiences in teams or bad experiences in teams, literally oftentimes because of what happened in childhood. And that's a deep systemic thing, but and that really starts to play out. And I think a lot of the challenges right now in the world is building teams in this new environment. We're lacking social. I mean, we're in social distancing, so we're lacking proximity. You know what I mean? We're fewer people together. There's no more big, huge boardrooms. We're not doing big events, for teams. There's no stadiums for people in network marketing or online marketing companies. Like that's a big rah rah rah. Or real estate companies and board of directors, like all of these companies in different industries who would get their organizations, their teams together in big events. Or it's all completely shifted, and so. Now we're in a very interesting space. How do we really maximize teamwork? And what is the breaking point in teams? What are the fundamental things that need to be in place, and the foundational things that need to be in place for a team to actually have legs to stand on to go the mile? You and I have been a part of different teams in different companies and different businesses over the years, and we've seen things come and we've seen things go. We've seen companies grow, we've seen them fall. We've seen teams expand and unite, and we've seen teams divide and divide and divide. And so let's dive into some of those experiences and start figuring out what is it that can truly create a successful performance-based team.
So I'll tell you what, I can speak from my experience lately and what I've went through. So I think one of the life-changing books I actually read was Good to Great by Jim Collins. If you guys haven't picked that up, it's one of the best ideas about how a company went from good to great. And it's all about the people on the bus. He always talks about this methodology. Who do you have on the bus and why? And sometimes they're in the wrong seats and you got to shuffle the people on the bus. Some people, they shouldn't be on the bus. You got to get new people on the bus. And that's the engine of your business. But the point I mentioned is things are working differently nowadays than they've ever worked before. People want to work with people, and they want to be left to their own accountability. Like the old where you had a stick and you're driving a workforce forward. It just doesn't exist anymore. If you do that to people, they'll burn out. They'll quit on you, right? So it's very much there's an older gentleman called Ken Blanchard. And if no one's looked him up before, he talks about servant leadership. And what I found most effective today, from my personal experience, so right now I have a really good small team. We met today actually, and there's about 8 of us together in the boardroom going over like what we want to develop in the future and sharing ideas and things like that. And that was really productive meeting. And the way we do it is we have a very flat structure, meaning there's no bosses in this company. It's everyone works on a project, and our only point of accountability is our client. Is our client happy? And we all win together, we lose together. Our job is to help keep each other in check to do the right job. And I found that structure, everyone there is happy, they're motivated, they're pumped to come to work, their ideas are heard, they can implement those ideas. We consistently refresh who's the point person on the project, based on the skill set and the person that's in front of us, like the client type. And it's been really successful, Shane. It allows people to grow. And another thing that we've done for our team, which is pretty unique, is we say, okay, this is what you're doing in the company. And then what skills do you want to develop? You want to develop these things? Okay, you get to do like a quarter of your work week on development items, things you're not great at, but you want to learn the skills. And then 75% of your week is done working the things you're really good at to power the value forward for the business. So people are in constant growth mode, constant challenge mode, but they get up in the morning and they're like, man, I get to do this. This is exciting. Like I'm doing this, then this. And we structure your days with a little bit of everything. So it's kind of interesting what we develop now. It's a very millennial, what I call millennial team, and it's flat. So there's no bosses. The accountability comes from the client. And if we're failing together. And so we build development tracks for everybody. Like when they come on board, hey, what do you want to achieve with your life? Where's your next few years? And we plan that together, like how the company can grow with them, what options are there. So everyone's got this like path when they come on board with my company, where they can go, right? And that's the big thing, is like, where can you go with this? And so when we're looking at effective teams, you got to say, well, there is I's in team. There's a lot of I people that are in that team. So I think a big part of it is, how are you helping that person achieve their goals? And then building it into a team structure that allows them the development, it allows us to pay the bills, and allows for that epitome of going after a big goal together. So they buy the vision. So the original piece of how all this starts, and you wrap it up together, is going back to what your brand platform is as a company or as a group, a community. And we talk about vision, mission, values, okay? And I talk about it very simply. Your vision is where you're going. Your mission is how you're going to get there, and your values are your guarantees about how you're going to act on your way there, internally and externally. So for example, one of our values is forward progress, meaning we will not touch a project or work with anyone unless we can leave it better than we started. So unless we can add improvement to it, we won't sell it, we won't work with that. So we have to be able to have forward progress with our clients and with the people we hire. We have to be able to improve them, right? And so that's one of our main tenets of what our value is. Another one is like, we have a very one that resonates with most people, is we never walk alone, meaning that when you're with us, internally, externally, we're here for you no matter what you're going through, and we're here to build you. You're never alone in this fight. It's never just like you on your own. We're using you as a resource and you're getting us here. It's not a number, it's a person, right? And so these are the things that I try to talk about as teams. There's a lot to consider, but the biggest thing I think nowadays is making sure people are heard as human beings, and they understand themselves. I think a team is a constant work to try to help people understand themselves. So are they planning their life? Are they being intentional? So I'll leave it there, Shane. You can tell me about your experience lately working collaboratively with your teams, because they're a little bit different setup.
Yeah, I mean, my teams are in the home-based business network marketing space, and so here's there's some. I'm going to talk about the good stuff, and I'm going to talk about the bad stuff, and I'm going to talk about the ugly stuff, right? Because I think it's important that people really understand. Like when you're doing network marketing, first off, it's a trigger word for a lot of people. You say network marketing, it's like throwing salt on a wound or vinegar on a wound. it's like holding garlic and silver bullets up in front of a vampire. For a lot of people, they're like, ah, my uncle was in some Amway or something like 55 years ago, and he's still got boxes in his closet, and I heard it's all a big pyramid. Like, you've got all of these things. It's a pyramid scam, it's this and that. So somebody knowingly getting into the industry, and by the way, for the audience, if you're listening, stay tuned and listen more. Don't just pop off here because I've mentioned the word network marketing. We're talking about teams, but it's important to understand the different dynamics that happen in different industries. We're talking about real business over here with Jordan. We're talking about network marketing business, which is a home business, which right now is also a thriving industry. But, so first off, there is a great need that is in someone's life that gets them into the industry of home-based business or network marketing or online marketing. There is a great need. They need money. They need connection, and they don't know how to get it. You know what I mean? They don't know how to get any leads. They don't know how to make any sales. They want more out of life. They want to have more freedom. So they come in with this need. But what got them in was that whoever got them to join helped them realize that the pain of staying the same, okay, was greater than what they perceived the pain of to be change. In other words, most people think that the pain of change is greater than the pain of staying the same, so they stay the same. They remain. They don't do anything new. They'd rather stay in their comfort zone. The only way to get somebody to take action is to get them to realize that actually staying the same is where they are. There's a lot of pain. They're just numbed to it. And so you basically rip the freaking Band-Aid off and you slap them in the wound and you're like, you are in pain. You need to do something about this. And so then they move forward into action and join. Now, they're willing to take this hit to their social esteem, right? But so they're already kind of guarded. People tend to be guarded when they get into the industry because they already know what they're up against. They know that they're going to have people reject them. They know that they're going to have a bunch of issues. They know all of these things, right? And so in that industry, there can also be a lot of drama because there's the people who are just getting in there and they're flighty. You know what I mean? They're like, oh my gosh, Jordan, I hope this works. I hope this business is going to make me some money. I'm super nervous and super scared, and I don't know what to do, and I don't have any friends to talk to, and I'm going to do this. But so, you've got to really put somebody up against their greatest fears, right? Their fear of failure, their fear of making new friends and meeting new people, because let's get serious. Most people are afraid of making new friends. They don't know how to make new friends. Myself included, for the most part of my life, I didn't know how to make friends. So there's a lot of issues, in a job where someone has a sales job or they've got a mechanic or if they're a plumber or if they're an engineer or if they are a scientist or whatever they're doing, they have a job. So they go, there's a protocol, there's routine, there's stuff they have to do. Creating teamwork inside of that is like, okay, do your job. Here's how you do your job, and I pay you when you do your job. In this industry, the home-based business industry, it's totally different. It's like, hey, you got to do this all on your own. There is really no actual protocol for you like 9 to 5. You just have to, and I can't pay you by the hour. You've got to go earn the checks. You got to go earn that money. You got to go make those sales, and you got to go, and you've got to face your greatest fears of making new friends and talking to people. And by the way, you have to deal with all of your insecurities as well, and you've got to do a ton of personal growth. And you have to be accountable and show up every single day because we're not paying you to do that. You got to do that on your own. And if you want to make any money, you got to show up. So it's a totally different type of thing. It's like black and white different from a traditional workforce team environment. So when someone gets in, they're scared to death. They got to figure it out. They got to plug in. And in their head, they've got to get past all the nagging voices of all of their fears and all of these pretend scenarios where they think that everybody's going to laugh at them and that they're going to fail. You see what I'm saying? And then they got to show up and then they got to do the work. And so you really have to create a culture inside of network marketing to get people to buy in so that they can go through this and it's a thin veil of their misconceptions, misunderstandings, and fears and insecurities and doubts. Because when they get through that wall of fog, which is about this thick, over here, when they see that all that stuff was ridiculous, that it's so easy to talk about this, it's so easy to talk to people, it's so easy to make friends, it's so easy to show up for a webinar, it's so easy to book a meeting and a call, but they're all over here and they got to get through that, right? And that's not easy. That takes teamwork. It takes community. It takes leadership. It takes coaching. It takes a lot of development, because very few people very few people have success. If you think about the number of people in the industry, very few people make it to the $1 million a month or $1 million a year type of income. And there's reasons for that, because it's a journey of growth. But let's talk about what successful factors must be in place. Number one is to create a successful team, especially in today's day and age. You got to have private Facebook groups. You need a private Facebook group. You should be on WhatsApp or Signal or Facebook chat.
Or
Because
Slack.
I don't use Slack, but
Yeah.
you use Slack? Okay, so and Slack. I'll look into it, but Slack. Okay, I use Slack with my dev team, but I don't use it as a community chat. But anyways, regardless, you need that private chat. So you need a private group, you need a private chat. These are fundamental. I've used this in multiple businesses to build a community. Now, inside of that, you've got to have generals, right? Because you can't do it on your own. And you need to have people who got the vision, who have the energy, who caught the vision, who are willing to take action and show up and pour into the team and give trainings and show up to give that energy and mentor and coach people. You've got to have people who are going to be producing content inside of the groups, because if you're the solo show, no, it doesn't work. There's a saying where one can put 100 to flight, two can put 10,000. And so there's a compounding effect in energy when you have more than one person doing it. So you really want to find like 2, 3, 4, 5 other people who are going to be doing this to build this up. And there has to be constant energy and constant action. Okay, welcoming people, introduce like webinars, team trainings. You've got to get people to commit, and you've got to get people started properly. Now, I've been going on for a little while, so Jordan, if any time you want to butt in, but I just really feel like these are some fundamental things when it comes to building a team. And I built some really amazing teams, and I've destroyed some teams, and I'll talk about that in the next little bit. But I'll tell you some of the things that you want to do. These are the things that you want to do: Facebook page, chats, private chats, creating content. Even if you want to create your own team website or a membership site, that's cool. Not always necessary, but also added value. Okay, you need 2, 3, 4, at least 2, but 3, 4, 5 other people who are leaders that are contributing value to the team and pumping the energy every day, right? You also want to give your team the engagement, like the acknowledgement that they're real people. So outside of just being business, the industry of network marketing is about relationships. I can't tell you how many hours I spend just talking to people about just life, not even in business, just about like stuff. And that's important, because in this industry, it is a family. It is a family affair. It is about us as a tribe. We're all in the same thing together. We're going through the same motions. We've had the same fears and insecurities show up. We've had those same failures. We've had the same challenges. We've gone through it. And the newest person, they need to see that tribe is unified, and the tribe must be unified. Leaders got to get along. They have to get along, right? Because there's ethnic division and enough garbage in the world. People aren't looking for that. And the other thing is that you really want to make sure that the space is run ethically, morally, and you've got solid virtues and values that you instill into your people. Because again, like if, for example, if your marketing is shady, then your team will do that, and then you'll have issues. And if your marketing isn't strong and it's not clear, then your whole team becomes wishy-washy. So you've got to be laser focused and crystal clear as a leader. You've got to find other people, and you've got to be willing to fight through to peace on if anything ever happens, if there's an issue, because life issues also happen and come up. So it's important to have that willingness to work through things, because good leadership can work through things and bear a storm. Bad leadership falls into division, and separates and divides?
So let's talk about that. So there's one thing there that stands out to me. So one of the thing is that I found with effective team building, the only reason I have an effective team now is because I have very shared values. Okay, so for our traditional business that we have, just day to day, it's a consulting company that I run and own part of. We have very shared values. It's just like we're cut kind of similar. We have the same kind of absolute morality about life. And that's what I say when you're crafting a team or being part of a community, make sure you share the values and don't share time with people you don't share values with, because you're going to live a much happier life acting in shared value than you will trying to convince people they should act into your values. Values are kind of ingrained in people. And so select that tribe you're going to work with, and that's going to build your value. And when you have that there, you're going to find that your results, your fruits of your labors are much, much greater in a shared when you're sharing values, right? So I know the baseline, like think about my values, like being a Christian guy. Here's the spiritual part. Being a Christian guy, I would rather spend my time, working with people of a Unitarian faith. That's me. So whether someone's Jewish or Islamic or Sikh or Christian, someone who believes in a single God, they have very similar structure and value, right? Very similar values. They're minutely apart because, of course, the religion is different, but the way they look at life is very, very similar. So I find that I work much more effectively with Unitarian belief people. So they believe in a Unitarian God, one God in the sky, right? So they believe in that ideal. And so construct what you think you work best in. And I find when I find those shared values, I can understand people and I know how they're going to react and I know how to act and I know what my level of humility should be, what my level of pride can be, and like where to function together. So I know my boundaries. And so when you know those, you know how to act within an environment. No one kind of like pokes the tiger, you know what I mean? That way it doesn't get upsetting. And so I know that other people are saying, well, you need to expand and share ideas with people. I do believe there's a form for that, but I don't believe that that form is teamwork or teams. I believe that form is debate on general stage going against opposition of ideas, but I don't believe that opposing ideas work well in a team. I believe that different personalities do, but clarity of direction comes through shared values. So if your foundation is similar, I believe that your direction can be true. Now, if I believe that your values aren't similar, I don't believe your direction can be very true. I find there's a lot of ambiguity then. And so that's how I construct my teams. And I could be wrong. Everyone's got methodologies, but I found that that's a very like strong one that I like around me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the same with my customers. I like to select customers that are similar in value structure because then we know how to relate to each other.
Yeah.
Like when you say Apple, I see Apple. That's important, right?
Well, it's like a good CEO will build a team based off of similar values, and then you know, and then assigning people a position that caters to their strengths, right? Yeah, because that's essentially how you want to do. If you want to be able to have an effective team, if somebody's good, like for example in hockey, if somebody's really good at center, they're really good at center. If they're really good at as a goalie, they're really good as a goalie, right?
If they're really good on the bench,
If they're really good on the bench, like me, I was really good on the bench actually when I was in hockey. I remember I played for like 2 years. I never even scored a single goal. Can you believe it? Not even.
No, I really can't because
No,
you're
well, you
kind of an
can
athletic.
now.
You're an athletic
Yeah,
guy. I
I
would
know.
assume that
Yeah,
you would score some
not
goals.
even one. Not one goal. 2 years. Not even one. Anyways, I was a kid, but regardless, the bottom line is that assembling a team is. And when you're building, so you're talking about corporate teams and structures. I'm going to switch back over to how to build an effective network marketing team. Right? Because if you want to have a team that goes and crushes it like the Spartan 300, it's all about seeing the up and comers and here's the ticket. Start speaking greatness into those qualities that you see. And when you see it, give praise and recognition to those qualities. And that person will rise to the platform which you've set for them. They will rise to your expectations as long as you speak greatness into them around what you see. Okay? And so if somebody is a really good, if they're really good at helping people shift their mindset around money, or if they're really good at helping people understand health, well, that person gets to do the health webinar. That person gets to do the money webinar. If somebody's really good at doing funnels or something, well, that person, like assign people a task to add value to the community that really caters to their strengths. And everybody's got a piece that they can play in a piece. Everybody has a piece of the puzzle within them, right? To the greater body of the team. And a good leader is simply someone who can see those pieces and recognize how they fit together and help them coordinate and work together effectively.
So let me ask you a question. So when you get teams to that point where they're being effective, but then, we all go through ups and downs. So what do you do inside your team environments when you get stagnation? When stuff stops growing, it's just kind of leveling out. What do you do to re-energize the teams? I bet we have similar answers.
No, my answer is simple. The speed of the leader is the speed of the team. If the team slowed down, what have I done? I must have slowed down. And so what I'll do is I will go get to, and sometimes, and I've done it. I'm going to take responsibility on that. There's times where the team has done really, really well and I start to thrive. And then I don't do the basic stuff, the hard, like the work, I'm not out there showing and setting the example. And what happens is the team will start to slow down as well, or people get distracted because they were looking to you as a leadership. Now, there's a pro to that and there's a con. Like, I'm going to talk about the good and the bad on that. So the good on that is if you don't practice stepping down, then you will always have to step up. And that's not leadership either. So, you've got to kind of sometimes push the eagles out of the nest by disappearing a little bit. Like, if you really want to have a successful team, you've got to become less as they become more. And you've got to give people opportunities and test and challenge and be willing to have been wrong in assuming that it might have been the right time for them. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone to help them grow is your absence. If they need you and they crave you, you got to help them with everything. And as long as you've taught them the foundational stuff the principles, whatever it is that they need, if you can disappear and watch them rise, maybe they get mad at you, maybe they get bitter, whatever fire gets under their ass to make them get to work. Maybe you're the bad guy for them, right? Because you're like, man, now he's just traveling around doing his own thing. He's not helping the team out anymore. I've seen this kind of stuff, right? But guess what? They start taking action. They start moving. You've got to go step. I'm an adamant believer in step down leadership because you don't want to work super hard the rest of your life. You really want to, if you want to have freedom, then you go and help as many people get what they want. You're going to get everything that you need. But you also don't want to be the figure face of your company or your team where they can't operate without you. Because if you are, you don't have a business. You have a job.
So, okay, let's touch base on this because I got a couple things to add. One of the things is when it leads to this. So every time I come to a point in business where I'm starting to slow down, Shane, I add someone amazing to my team.
Yeah.
I go find someone who is I consider better than myself. Like when you get hired onto our team, you're better than we are. We see that strength. We already think you're remarkable, right? Just like when we sit down with our team, we're like, hey, if you're at this table right now, you're remarkable. And we already recognize that. So don't think you have anything to live up to. The only person that's going to judge you is our client, right? And so, people know that when they're part of our team. So I add that energizer that just has this power to the team and add them often. So you got to refresh that every few months. You should be able to bring on someone new, right? If you're growing your business properly, and that's how you build teams. I really think that that effective empowerment, and then see them rise so fast because you give them that platform to stand on, and they do, just like you're saying, they rise to it. Now, this allows me as a leader, I don't take breaks because I'm a workaholic. I work 6 days a week and I take 1 day Sabbath. That's it. And I really like, even on Sabbath, I'm like, I want to go back to work. Like, I'm just like that. My wife hates that, but I just love to work. I love what I do. So that on these days and like the way I construct my life, I'm different than everybody else. Okay. And that's okay. Like, as a leader, as you said, you got to set the example, but I don't want everyone to work as hard as me. I think I have a little bit of an addiction to my work, right? And that's good and it's bad. But when I get that great person and they take the mantle and they're taking some of that work off my shoulders, what I do is, instead of working in the business, I get a chance to work on the business. Now I take a step back. I'm building systems to support this new person where it hurt me before. So I start instituting things to make their life easier. And then I do it again and again. Now I try to duplicate it, and I'm working on my business. Actually, the systems, the procedures, like project management platforms, sales systems, email marketing automations, all these different things to make things easier for your team. And so that's how I find really effective teams for myself as a leader in the example. It really helps finding that one person and they start standing out. They're on fire and other people catch on fire because they're on fire, and a forced fire happens, right? And so I think that dynamic of refreshing the tree of greatness with new great people is like so essential, whether it's network marketing or traditional business, like where I'm living right now. And so what do you think of that concept, Shane? I call it that refreshness of what you need to do, right? You find that one great person again.
No, yeah, absolutely. Again, if you want to be a great leader and you want to set the example for your team, and the speed of the leader is the speed of the team, and you go and your team slowed down, you go find another good leader who is running and someone who's excellent. Your team existing, they're either going to be inspired to take more action or intimidated and jealous. And either one is great. And I'll tell you why. If they're inspired to take action, they're going to take action. If they're feeling jealous, then that's a fantastic motivating factor for them to change, to go do something, to figure it out. Either one is inspiration. It's just one is coming from a good heart, one's coming from a sour heart, right? But either of those are motivating factors enough to create something. So sometimes someone will sit there, if they're jealous, for example, of that, wow, Jordan's new leader, Jordan's new team, Shane's new team, they're crushing it. And they might opt themselves out in their mind. But it's going to sit there and it'll chew them up eventually to the point where they're like, okay, you know what? Like, everybody has to have a line in the sand moment before they start to sprint. It's like enough crap has to happen in someone's life to make them draw that line where they're like, here's where I stop crapping the bed in my life. Here is where I'm going to take the reins and I'm going to go. And that shift in energy is like a bull on parade, and it runs and it creates massive, massive change and massive, massive waves. It's better to do it from inspiration of just simply wanting to do more and not being jealous, because those people can soar like an eagle, right? Because they're simply looking at what's possible, right? Wow, I didn't think that was possible, because they're looking at, oh, I didn't know that all of that stuff that I didn't know before. And now I've seen it. It's possible. So now I know that someone can do great things like that. And I know it's possible. Jordan got me, you got this, you got this other person, you got that new leader. Why can't I? Right? And so, but again, either way it goes, it's always good. Right?
So yeah, it's interesting because I have the luxury in my life of only hiring people that are motivated, And what I find is a lot of people, and this is how I looked at network marketing, it's kind of crass, is that, I wanted people to step up. I'm only looking for people who want to go like 10x in their life. And if you're not, I didn't even give you a second phone call. I'm like, whatever, right? I'm looking for the stars, because the stars elevate everybody else. So, one of our mentors there, Eric G, he gave us that model of like, you got 24 hours. You sign someone up, you got 24 hours to sign somebody else up. I thought that was awesome because that kept the momentum just going, 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 right? Let's go to the next meeting, next meeting, next meeting, next meeting, because it's just that push, and you have 24 hours to help that person win. Because if they don't win within 24 hours, they don't get that initial gratification. And we had such better hold rates when we did that. And I thought that was great. And it showed the speed of a team is determined by the leader, because the leader's digging deep. And that digging deep concept through contacts and through people is the same in the business world too. The problem with most salespeople in B2B, okay, and most marketing, most business owners, is they don't know how to leverage their network. So they're not calling, like, they don't call their best customer and say, hey, best customer, you've been my best customer for 4 years. Do you know other people who would be good customers for me too? They don't ask for referrals. They're scared to ask for referrals because that person's giving them so much business. When that person, yeah, I got like 5 people I'll introduce you to. That's the immediate response. And you say, great, I'm going to take you and your wife out on a resort weekend with my wife, and I will hang out. And they're like, great, we get a weekend away from the kids. And you pay for that, and you go out with them, and they give you a bunch of referrals. Like, that's business, right? So the thing is recognizing to leverage your network. And I think the best thing about network marketing, our dirty word, right, is the fact that it teaches you to be unafraid to speak to your network. So I think some of the best business leaders I know in traditional business have been through companies like Amway, right? They've been through those trainings, and they know how to ask for referrals, and they're not afraid of it. Like, dude, we're all here to make money. We're all here to help each other, support each other. That's not a bad thing. And if you think money's bad, you got to fix your thinking. Like, you just have the wrong thinking, right?
Well, okay, and so getting in there, yeah. And again, speaking to new people is the greatest fear most people have. It's like right up there with public speaking. It's like public speaking and talking to new people and death. People are just, they have a hard time. A lot of people have a hard time, making new friends if they have an agenda. Now, this is what I mean. If you got a network marketing company and you're trying to make a friend, and you know that you actually just want to get them into your business, right? Then psychologically what people do is they feel kind of like their heart's not right or something. Like they feel some sort of ethical, misalignment, because for the first time they're trying to talk to someone with an agenda, which is why a lot of people fail at sales, or they have these narratives. I'm not a salesperson. I don't like to be that pushy salesperson. And it's because oftentimes what happens is a new salesperson or someone who's in sales, they come across out of a desperation, neediness, clinginess. They don't handle objections or rejections very well, and they become defensive or argumentative or even condescending. And so it doesn't really give the person being sold a great experience. And so people own these stories. And again, when you actually are good at it, when you're good at sales, it just really means that you're good at marketing. And when you're good at marketing, you really don't need to worry about closing the sales. It's actually just kind of a natural, easy, simple process. But you're only going to get to that understanding through learning the common language. And this is the power of the Facebook groups and the communities and the chats and the frequent conversations. But what I want to ask you is, how do you get people to commit to plugging in and staying plugged in?
Well, for me, Shane, because I'm in traditional business, I pay them.
Right. So in network marketing, you have to, it's all about how you get them started. Okay. So when someone signs up, for example, into a network marketing company, you want to set expectations at a very real level, because you got to tell them, look, if you don't show up for the events, like before they even sign up, you have to be willing. I think you've got to be willing to hear no, even if they're willing to say yes. And if you know that you got the sale, after you get the sale, okay, so how fast do you want to make your money? Are you willing to plug in to at least 1 or 2 1-hour Zooms a week to learn, to train. If you run out of leads and things get tough, will you call me? If you have questions, will you call me? What should I tell you if I don't hear from you in a month or 2 weeks? How many times should I follow up with you? What happens if you don't show up? How do you want me to handle that? Right? And so it's about talking about the exits, because if you've got experience, you know what people will do. It's like 48 hours where go by and then they're not excited anymore, or maybe they last 48 days and then their excitement wears off. Some people go 4 years and then their excitement wears off. It's all about setting them straight when you get started. Maybe even writing down a commitment sheet from them, right? Well, here's some commitments you made to me last month. You said, I commit to showing up to webinars. I commit to this. I commit to that. I commit to engaging in the Facebook group. Because what people don't understand is it takes time to learn that language. Like in your workplace, Jordan, you have common languaging. You guys are talking common sales talk. Okay? So like, for example, if somebody who is engineer, or maybe let's just say someone who's a plumber, okay, they show up at your Salesforce, they might not understand all of the languaging that you guys are using, right? Like scientists and doctors have languaging that they use specifically. Like there's narratives and keywords and words that they're using that and descriptors that are not really used by other people in different industries. Like engineer language, very different from scientist language, very different from plumber language, very different from a zookeeper's language. Okay, and so network marketing is its own language. You've got to learn the verbalized way that we speak. Like what are we talking about when we're talking about teams, recruiting, and downline and upline and prospects and funnels and all that kind of stuff. You got to learn this language and you got to become comfortable with it. And if it's new to you, like it is for everybody who starts, the only way you can learn that is through immersion. You've got to drown yourself inside that community and you really got to get in. So you have to get a willingness for someone to really see it. Now, the only way you can really do that is you've got to get a commitment, but you've got to speak vision. So one of the biggest things I've learned in leadership and team building is that if you, and I learned this from Dr. David Peach, okay, one of my MLM heroes, all right? Shane, when you speak vision, you will have grown men and women march to the sound of your voice. And that is the ticket. It's actually a universal law of being able to speak things out, to envision, to have that vision. And that's
let's add to that. Let's add to that really quick, Shane. I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to honor somebody here because it's a very divided thing when we talk about community and things. And there's one leader that stands out in the last 100 years as that epitome. And he said back in the days in the civil rights movement, he said, "I have a dream." And so that was Martin Luther King Jr. And, I look at that man and like how he's linking arms in peaceful protests in the States and like what a person to model life after. A pastor, a man of God, spiritually sound, emotionally sound, peaceful man, had it all together, educated because he was a doctor as well. Like he had everything. And like, I think that's what people need to aspire to. You want to cast vision. He don't just cast vision. He did what was hard. He did what was right. He walked the path that most people will not walk. And, if you really want to become that leader, and that we move from team to leader piece, if you want to lead at that level, you have to walk like that. He lived, walked, talked, and stayed consistent on his dream. And he cast that vision wherever he went. He was speaking to rooms of people. Right? And so that was consistent. That was a consistent dream. And it shows the results that come from that. Right? He paid with his life. But he freed the people in terms of like what was next in society for them. So say, how far are you willing to go? Well, he was willing to go all the way, and so that's what you got to ask, and people follow that. So when we talk about teams, I've never seen a great team ever without a great leader. It just has never happened. I've never seen a great team without a great leader. And so, what does that mean? And who do you become when you become that great leader? You got to kind of define that. And when you're speaking your vision, you're casting your vision of what your team looks like. So every time I'm talking to someone who's going to come on board with our team, I'm telling them how it will be, how we will act together, how it will look, how we'll succeed, what they'll dream, how we'll develop them. I'm selling them like how we think. And if they accept that, then that's going to be a great fit. Right? So those are things, and I just wanted to touch on that because they said some very important things, and I just wanted to honor that guy because of all the things that are going on right now in the world.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he stands out to me. I've read everything that he put down on paper and all the documentaries about him, and that's someone I like to model my life after. But I'm no way I could live up to those kind of standards. But I want to try because that guy can get in the ring with anybody who's ever lived, and he'd be equal or better, in terms of what he achieved. And he got his life cut short. So, I think that if people want to look for those people, they're out there. There's guys like Gandhi, too. Did a pretty good job in terms of what he was going for. So, yeah, man, I think we just have to honor that given where society is today, right?
Yeah. And absolutely. And speaking and going along in that direction, let's talk about spirituality in teams. Like it's a slippery slope sometimes because we're in such a micro triggered, super aggressive type of world where everyone wants to dance around being politically correct, and while there's a lot of good things from that, there's also the effect of like, okay, so some people are Christian or Muslim or they're Hindu or they have a or they're Jewish or whatever. They have a different and they want to lead their business and their team with spiritual principles. And some people they're so triggered it's enough to knock them out of the game. They're like, I don't want to hear about God or this or that or the other thing. And then some people are neutral and some people are for it. And so, what is your stance on people who are leaders bringing their spiritual game into their business?
So I say this, be you. Be unafraid of what the world thinks or someone's going to sue you. Just be you, right? Be you. Cast your vision, cast your spirit out into the world. God made you to be you. Whatever you believe that is, go be you. Be unafraid. Like if someone wants to try to contain who you are, bring it on. You'll get bigger and you'll get better because you're following your path. You're following the truth. And when you feel the truth and you have clarity and direction, follow the truth. Don't let anybody dissuade you. You have found something that is beautiful and right, and you got to go after it, right? So that's me. I say be unafraid. I have Islamic clients. I have Christian clients. I have Jewish clients. I have Sikh clients. Do you know what? We're all people of like God. We all understand that. I pray with every one of them. I know that seems strange. If you're out there and you don't believe this stuff, great. But I'm telling you, there's people who do. And I pray with people of all faiths, and they love it because they're praying to God. They feel the same thing as you do in a way. Now, you're calling different names. This is very, very true, and there's importance to this, okay? I know people are going to debate this back and forth forever. But I'm saying that praying with people brings you together. It shows you that you have oneness, you have spirit. You can call it meditation if you're new age, sure. But you're giving reverence to something they believe, and you're sharing in something extremely intimate, the spirituality of something, the belief in something bigger. It shows respect, it shows character, and it shows togetherness. You're never going to convince someone by fighting them. But when you pray with someone, watch the walls fall away on who they are and truth come out between you. Right? Of honesty and realism. Like, yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's different in business, and I know that most people wouldn't do it, but we get every opportunity. I've never had one problem by being open and honest about my faith and about prayer with people, even across all those different religious backgrounds, because they all have such respect for one another when it comes down to the human to human piece, especially around prayer. So yeah, anyways, I think that's where I stand with it. Don't hide your truth. Go get it. Be the person you are, and follow the truth. If you believe you have the truth, it's your job to share it. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Just own it.
How about you?
Own it, but don't. I tell people own it, but don't preach and berate people with it. There's a difference. Like, okay, so for example, If you truly believe what you believe, then live it. If you're living what you believe, when people ask you, then they don't need to question because they see you living the example of it. But it's what's caused a lot of, for example, what's caused so much distress. And I'll use Christianity for a great example. I would say out of all of the religions, Christianity has had more bad seeds than any other religion. In other words, people who say that they're followers of Jesus, but are just absolutely out of integrity in their walk, and or just total, like they say that they're followers, but literally live lives completely opposite of everything that's taught. There's probably more bad seeds, more bad examples, and that's not to knock on it. I think that actually speaks to the grace of the teachings of Jesus itself. But I also think that it gives the world a lot of things to zero in on. Well, but you guys did this, and you guys did this, and you guys did this. But yeah, but no, the book says this. These guys did those things. That's not what the book says to do. So it's an interesting thing. And so again, walk your walk, talk your talk, but don't beat people with it, because it's almost like it's not really necessary. People know what their different religions stand for. What they're really looking for, I think, is a good example. And so if you're building a team, own it, but don't beat people with it. You know what I mean? Don't make it a tool used for judgment and separation and division, is what I'm saying. Now, you might agree or disagree. What are your thoughts?
Well, I always say, like, I go back to prayer. Like, if you start praying with people, no matter what faith you are, and you ask them, do you need prayer for something? Like that, what a question is that? Like, when does someone come up and ask you, do you need prayer for something ever? Like, it's so rare. And just watch them kind of like change their perception on something. Yeah, I'll take prayer. Like, even if they don't believe in something, they're like, yeah. And you're like, what's going on? And you ask them, and you have prayer. I think it's a very open thing. I don't think people are against that. I think people are against preaching things. Because it's in your face and it's not really adding value. But when you're showing like extreme care, which I think prayer is the ultimate show of care between people is probably that, outside like pure altruism, like giving food and shelter and XYZ. I mean, just an interaction between two people. So I find that melts a lot of borders with people from a spiritual sense in business and in life. And it just shows character. And they're like, well, I don't believe what you believe. And I'm like, is that important? Or do you feel that, there's some form of care there that would make you feel better? And they're like, yeah, so point it there. I've never had someone in my life turn down prayer. Not one time. And that's a lot. I've asked hundreds, if not thousands of people if they want prayer. And that's across the board. This is atheists. Even atheists are like, you know what? Yeah, I'll take some prayer. Which is great. Fantastic. They're like, if it works, it works. Maybe it works for you. It doesn't work for me. Yeah? You just like go for it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how you rise up. I don't think that meeting with like preaching and diction makes sense to people. I think that faith is emotion, because there's no way you can prove God exists, but there's no way you can disprove God exists. It's the same age-old question. You can never prove it. And so it's something you feel, it's something that's deep ingrained, it's an emotional thing, right? And so as long as we transition that barrier and people stop trying to prove things that, you cannot prove it doesn't, you cannot prove it does. We've been down these roads, we know this. So you got to feel it and you got to approach people like that. But it really, for me, when I pray for others, I grow more, because it really puts me in, like, I ask them deeper questions. So what's going on with your life? Like, what are some things we can ask for that would make your life better? And it shows this like extreme sort of care. It's like saying, how are you? But stopping and someone responds, oh, I'm good. And you put your hand on their shoulder and you say, no, really, how are you? Right? That, it's so much deeper. And I like that sort of stuff, Shane. Like it brings things out. So I'm going to put it back to the same thing as before. If you're going to approach spirituality in between people and you don't want to be offensive, just ask them what you can have prayer for. And if they say, well, I'm not really into prayer, you say, what can I send energy towards for you? Because prayer is a form of energy. And so, then you meet them at their balance point. So there's ways around it and there's ways with it, but definitely walk in your truth and don't be afraid of being who you are. I think it's so important. And you're going to attract people who will share in those journeys with you, and you'll have a good time in life because you have similar values. So anyways, that's my piece. So let me ask you this, like in your walk amongst teams, what was the most connected you've ever felt on a team before? Like where you're growing, you're succeeding, and everything was in alignment. I like that word, alignment. Like everything was just flowing. Like, energy can just pass through, like it's like clear.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, definitely. Well, I would say 2013 to 14 and going into 2015, I had a lot of amazing things happen. My team started to blow up. It was back when I was working with OB there, and we were rocking, building business and going fast, and really good friends. And it just seemed like sales were challenged, but they were coming, and there was this, like, we were building on building on building on building, and it was a lot of fun. We really started to build this epic team, and so everything felt great. I'd also say last year I was working with another business partner, and we started building a team, and we just built one thing onto another. It led up to us creating a company and a mentoring company that was phenomenal. And we even worked together on a TV show. So it worked out really, really well. Things just, but there was synergy, but it was always because there was two. So every time that there's been anything that started to blow up, and this is a key, is because I had a running buddy. I had a really good friend who I trusted, respected, and loved and cared about. And we would talk and share and collab. Now, this is about collaboration. A powerful team comes from collaboration. So, like, for example, you and I, we talk all the time. We collaborate. We have ideas, and we don't maybe necessarily do business with things, but we also take those ideas that we get and glean some of that and extract that into our prospective businesses. I think we've had a lot of synergy and life lessons that we've learned and shared together that have benefited us in many, many ways. So that there is collaboration, but there's always, if you want to get something done, just like in your business, you're not building it all on your own. You have a business, you have business or business partners, right? And it's a collaboration of energy. It's a connection of the minds and hearts, souls in a common vision, common purpose to be able to implement that mission and get the strategy and the steps that you need to take. And so that is the ticket, is you need a running buddy. And if you don't have a running buddy, I think that you're missing 90% of your potential.
Well, it says, if you go back to spiritual sense, it says in the old good book there, where two or more are in my name, there I am.
That's right.
So it means that God comes amongst community.
Yeah.
And so, if you want blessing, work with others. And I believe that's very true. Like, you think my current business partner, Jared, he's amazing. He's helped me just get to the next level. I think we have together, and it's because I think we have perfectly aligned values, Shane, like me and him, and we see the world the same, and we're unconditionally supportive. No matter what happens, I'm there for him and he's there for me. And so we have that really good, impactful relationship. And in business, it's the first person I found, long-term partner, that there's never been any problems. There's no greed there. There's no manifestation of pride or anything. It's just really straight lined. And that's allowed us, and maybe because he's so humble and tempered and it's really good like that, but it's provided such a stable foundation that we've really started to build a company that's not just growing, it's multiplying, and that's a place I've actually never been in my life, where a team isn't just growing, it's exponentially multiplying, and everybody feels great about it. And so And everybody's winning. It's one of those special spiritual moments. And I realized today when we're sitting around that boardroom creating strategy together, and I phoned everybody after that meeting and said, "How was that for you?" And they're like, "Man, that was the best one I've been to." And I'm just appreciative of being there. And like that same spirit resonated through everybody. And I was like, okay, I think this is good. This is a good thing. And very rarely in my life have I actually said that's truly a good thing. Right. So I'm just grateful for all the people I have on that team. And you know what the cool thing is? I met so many of those people through network marketing.
Right.
I would not know of that table four of those people without network marketing. And so I'm saying that the blessing comes in whether you translate that to traditional business or network marketing. You have to realize you're growing relationships, growing your skill with people, your ability to bring value, your ability to coach, lead, build things. And it's like that was the most valuable experience of my young life, was being part of those things with you, Shane, and growing those companies. And we're still part of them, but I'm just not active like you guys still are, and you just kept consistent, and that's why you're doing so well with it. Yeah, but yeah, man, I admire that tenacity you talked about, and staying consistent and staying uplifting and renewing the tree and staying fast and being the leader. And there's no time off as a leader. Like if you really got that dream of making it big, you got to get used to working 6 days a week. And I don't say work 7, and the reason is because God told you to take a day of Sabbath, and I listen to God. He's kind of an important guy. So, I'm just preaching out there to a few people that like that 7-day thing, and I'm just like, slow down, have one day.
Yeah.
One day to center yourself and be with God if that's what you believe, just center yourself, right? So yeah, I just encourage people if they're listening out there to have that. So anything you want to close with tonight, Shane? I know it's getting a little bit late for
Yeah,
everybody
no,
out there.
I think it's good. This is a good one. Again, if we were to summarize like the key takeaways that I got from this, and I think that the audience would have gotten was, teamwork really is. It's about great leadership first, right? It's about culture. It's about engagement. If you're doing a traditional business, it's about making sure you've got the right people in the right place doing the right things, and making sure that you're praising the right things inside of those people to encourage them, lift them up, and help them grow, and having a good level of accountability. In the network marketing side of things, it's about community and engagement and getting people started right, and getting them to write down their commitments, getting people to plug in as often as they possibly can, and to step into personal responsibility to take the reins over their life. And it's not always easy. What gets people through that is if you've narrated and created a crystal clear vision. You've laid out the terrain so that they're not tripping and faltering over their footsteps because they're running into experiences that they didn't expect. If you've already narrated the vision for them and they know what's coming, then it's easier for them to navigate the terrain. It's kind of like looking at your GPS. We're like, okay, GPS told me I'd go through, if I'm going from Vancouver to Calgary, I got to drive through Langley. Here's what Langley and Abbotsford looks like. Okay, it's on the map. I knew it was coming. I wasn't like, holy crap, I'm in Langley. Wow. You were told, you saw, you were clear on it. So you're not caught by surprise. And so on top of that, it's about understanding that it's continuous growth, and it's continuous growth. That's what gets the team going. And for me, it's another key point is speaking greatness into people in your team, having your team have fellowship and community and events. If you can't do events anymore, get them on Zooms. There's Zooms has these breakaway rooms now. You can get together with like weekly hangouts and chats with your entire network marketing company and your team, and just have different conversations or different subjects. You have to work more of the facilitation. Like you have to have a digital facilitator now, someone who can create the rooms and point people to rooms. But what that allows us to do is to mingle and to get into social gatherings in new and entertaining ways while we're dealing with this pandemic. And so you got to be able to pivot. You got to be able to pivot when crisis happens, like right now. A lot of teams who are used to meeting together. They might be still scrambling on trying to figure out new and interactive ways to actually get people to stick together, to stay committed. And that's an amazing way. And it's really important to just keep being ingenuitive and visionary and look at possibilities and opportunities and take action, because right now we're in a whole different ball of wax. It's a different world than it was 6 months ago, and it's not going to go back to the way it was. So right now is a time for visionaries. It's a time for leaderships to create new teams, new structures, new ways of doing things based off of old foundational solid principles and values and virtues. But remember, the principles may change, but the tactics change. Or the principles stay the same, but the tactics change. So right now the tactics change. Look at your team. Look at where your holes in the bucket are. Where are people not showing up? Why? What's triggering people? What are people going through? Do you even know the stress of the people in your team's lives? Are you reaching out to the people in your team and who are above you, besides you, beneath you, whatever? And are you getting to know more about what's actually happening in their life? Are you showing up and are you letting them know that you give a crap about them? This is important stuff, because right now we've been so wanting to get connected. We're more disconnected while we're more connected than ever. It's a crazy world. And what people really want to know is that your heart's in the right place. And if your heart is in the right place, then your team will follow suit. But they need good examples. They need role models right now, because the world is full of bad examples, bad role models, and they're bombarded by nonstop negative nudity, negative news, negative news. I don't know. I was gonna try to put two words together, but I came up with negative nudity. I don't know how you did that. Negative news, negative publicity. I'm just done. Jordan, take over.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming into us. We'll see you next week at 9 p.m. Monday is our new time there. Moved it from 8:30 to 9. So tune in with us. Tune in for Six Packs, Six Figures, and Sabbath, the 667 experience. Signing off, Jordan Roush, Shane Carling. Thanks for watching, guys. We love you. God bless you.